back to more Alexander City Promise. We're doing some interviews, enjoying the feedback. People, we have gone over 1,000 views on several of our interviews. It's awesome. I appreciate you watching. I appreciate you sharing. We've had about 20 something shares on some of our views. I appreciate it. Keep passing it around. Keep letting people know about what's going on. This is about information for the city residents of Alexander City. Still got the forum on August the 8th for those mayor's candidates. And then on August the 11th, it will be for the council people. Make sure that you attend. If not, I think they are going to be videotaped and put on either the Alexander City Outlook or WAXC TV, Lake Broadcasting. But make sure that you get information. It's going to be over at the Betty Carroll Graham Center at our wonderful CACC, Central Alabama Community College. Today, I have the pleasure. I want to say officer, but I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to say Mark Fuller. He is a candidate for mayor, but I've been impressed with his service as one of our fine state troopers. He's out on the water and probably will walk you down even in a pickup truck with a boat in the back. So y'all be safe. But this man has been my city council person when I first moved in, and I've had an opportunity to stand and talk with him on multiple occasions. But now that he's running for mayor, I got to be fair. So I'm going to have this interview. We're going to talk a little bit. Mark Fuller, thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
First of all, what we do in these interviews is I go ahead and set it up for you. You're going to be walking up to, you can even say it's my house. Since you're running for mayor, you're walking up to my house. Obviously, you're going to have that little 30-second spiel that you give. Hi, my name is Mark Fuller and all this kind of good stuff. Let's skip that portion for right now because I want to be the person that asks you that question. Who are you and what is your background?
Well, Sean, I was born and raised in Alexander City.
Okay.
I've been here all my life, with the exception of my military service. Graduated Benjamin Russell High School in 1983. After high school, I chose the military over college. That's just what I had in my mind at the time. I like to say that my background is in public service, public safety, and public protection. I did a tour on active duty with the United States Marine Corps. Initially, I'd planned to make a career of the military, but some unforeseen things happened and it forced me to get out with a young child.
Before we go any further, thank you for your service.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate that, but go ahead.
After I finished my active duty tour, I came back home. I did some Marine Corps Reserve time, and I served as a member of the Alabama National Guard with the 214th MP Company here in Alex City. During that time frame, I started my law enforcement career with the Alex City Police Department. 1991, Chief Lynn Royal at the time, he hired me. I remember the first conversation we had when he brought me into his office. He said, Mark, are you sure you want to be a law enforcement officer? And at the time, fresh out of the military, that was really one of the only things that I had on my mind was being a law enforcement officer. He said, well, you're never going to be rich being a law enforcement. But if you do the job and you do the job right, you will be rewarded in more ways than monetarily. And he was right. I'm not wealthy by any stretch of the means, but I do feel like my family and I have been rewarded very well.
Tell us a little bit about your family. Quick.
I'm married to Dana Thomas. We've been married over 16 years.
That's my partner in crime. Hey, Dana.
I have a child from a previous marriage.
Okay.
His name is Chase. He lives and works in Auburn. And I have a 9-year-old from my current marriage, and he will be a 4th grader at Stevens Elementary this year.
Stevens. All right. Dana, you got a special place in heaven, baby. I'm just telling you. Talk to you. I know. Watch out. All right, go ahead.
One other thing worth mentioning in my background is I'm a former council member of the Alex City City Council. I served as councilman of District 4 from 2008 to 2012. I think that gives me a leg up on some of the other candidates. I've been involved in city government and I understand the process.
Well, since you brought up the councilman thing, this is something that you don't know. I actually remember when I was running that you took the time to stand out in front of your house with my wife and your wife, and we talked about what that job was going to be like. And I remember it. I gave you a lot of respect for that because a lot of people don't pass knowledge on, and you kind of gave me a little bit of a fire for that piece during that period of time. So I wanted to personally thank you for that piece. But, you know, now that we know a little bit about your background, why on earth would you get into the job of potentially becoming mayor?
Well, my wife.
What were you thinking?
My wife asked me the same question, and she threw in another phrase, and it was, "Are you crazy?"
Okay.
I'm not. I really feel like I can make a difference. Alex City is my home. It's where I've raised one child, and I'm raising another child, and I want it to be the best that a city of our size can be.
Okay.
I feel like I'm that leader that can move our city forward and can manage our employees to provide a good service to the citizens of Alex City.
Okay. Now, I know why you want to run, and we've talked a little bit before this and on other occasions, but what is your vision for the city? Because, you know, you're a staple of the city. You've been around here, you've been on council and everything else, and people know you. What is your vision for not only the city, but the city's future?
Well, in my opinion, Alex City has stalled. We've got some bad publicity lately. I want to work past that, move forward from that, rebuild our image across the state. And I want to market Alex City as the best recreational city in the state of Alabama.
Okay.
But to do that, we've really got to capitalize on what I consider two of our major assets. One being Lake Martin. We've got one of the cleanest lakes in the country.
Yes, I saw that article today.
One of the largest lakes in the state of Alabama. But aside from that, if you come here to Lake Martin, you either swim or boat, entertain your guests on a boat or at your lake home. But there's really nothing along the shores of Lake Martin as far as retail development or anything like that to draw outside people to our area.
Okay.
And that's what we need for growth, is to bring people outside here to spend their money, generate tax revenue so we can continue to provide and expand on our services to the citizens of Alex City. So build on Lake Martin. Retail and small businesses. I'd like to work with our legislature to really capitalize on Wind Creek State Park. Wind Creek State Park is one of the top generating revenue sources or state parks in the state. But historically, state parks in general will take a large sum of money and they'll set it aside for some project that they foresee down the road. And they won't spend it. Next legislative session comes in, the legislators are looking for money. They see that big pile of money over there and they take it. What I want to see is for our legislators, both local and across the state, to say, you know, Wind Creek State Park is doing a tremendous job of bringing in revenue. Let's spend it right there. Let's revitalize Wind Creek. Let's add on, establish maybe a conference center or restaurant. Build a boardwalk around the shoreline of Lake Martin where people can actually walk around, nature walks. We're part of the birding trail.
So you're interested in possibly getting more of a tourist and a drive for the not just entertainment but making it a destination place.
I want to bring them here, but I don't want them to come here and leave.
Right.
I want something here that's going to make them stay. And these businesses, just the boating and the swimming is not going to get it. They're going to
Right.
come, see it, been there, done that.
It'll be
and
for a
move on.
season and then they'll move on.
But if they have something to enjoy continuously, day in and day out, and to tell their family or their friends or their coworkers from outside the area, you need to come see this
Okay.
and bring them here. And the other thing I want to capitalize on is our recreational facilities. Our Sportplex used to be top notch, one of the top 5 or 10 in the state. Our Russell Complex that we now have control over, and our Hampline Stadium that there's some revitalization in process for that. We have a tremendous asset in those places. There are communities across the country that are thriving off of youth sports. But typically you can ride through the Sportplex if it's not baseball season, and it's pretty much empty. We need to start hosting sporting events year-round, weekend after weekend, whether it be baseball tournaments, football tournaments, band competitions, gymnastic events, basketball events. We have a gymnasium at the Sportplex. We've done it before. We can use the gymnasiums at the local schools to just bring these people in, fill up our hotels. Lodging taxes are one of the highest taxes in the state, in any
Yep.
city.
Yep.
But if we don't fill those hotels, we're losing out on potential revenue.
Well, with all of that said, why should I vote for you though?
Because in my mind, I have the ability to manage the city employees, to do the job that's required of them, to provide a cleaner, safer environment for not only the citizens of Alexander City, but any visitors that we bring into the area.
Okay. What in your background, both military and everything else that you have, do you feel will help you become a great mayor?
Well, again, I go back to the crutch of being a former city council person. I am familiar with the process of city government. I know and realize that one council person can't make a difference. You're part of a team. And if you can't get enough of your team to go along with what ideas and what decisions you want to get across, then you're ineffective.
You learned that in the military under leadership, didn't you?
I did.
That sounds like the definition that they used to give you.
But I also learned it serving on the city council.
Okay.
When I was on the city council, the council president was Mr. Richard Langford. And Mr. Langford had an agenda. He was a very persuasive man, and he was always able to persuade enough of the council to go along with what he was selling. And that was a huge asset, in my opinion, for him. Oftentimes, I was on the
You were one of the few that voted no. I remember.
I was one that I stood my ground and I voted what my constituents in District 4 wanted me to do. Not every time, but
On a few, I remember.
there were occasions where I didn't really have the time to go out and discuss it with a large group, so I talked with a couple. And once I felt like I had the best answer for that decision, then that's how I went. But
What do you see in some of the successes or some of the things that are going on that you really want to try and improve on? I mean, we're going to talk about the finances, we're going to talk about some, but have you seen any of what I would call the pet projects of Mark Fuller that you would possibly want to look at doing and getting into if you become mayor?
Well, you talked about successes. One thing that I see that we're doing well is our Main Street area. It's come a long way from where it was 20 years ago. We've made some improvements there. We got some ways to go, and they're doing that now with the Broad Street streetscape, renewing the parking, the curbing, and all of that. For a city our size, I think we're in probably the top 10 for sure in the Main Street area, and with the right people in place and the right vision, we can move on up the ladder in as far as rankings with Main Street. Our youth sports is good, but it can get better. Our sportplex, again, was once top notch. It's deteriorated some over the years, and we need to spend money there in order to make money in the future.
I know when you were a council person, you were a big fan of economic development. That was one of the things that I watched you kind of battle during that period of time. You actually had a couple of good points, and I'll bring those up in a minute, but tell me a little bit about some of the things that you want to see from an economic development standpoint as mayor.
Okay. Well, the Economic Development Alliance and we have had our struggles. I'm a very outspoken person. If you ask me a question, I usually have this saying, and I'll tell you, I would rather hurt your feelings than lie to you. That's one reason I don't make campaign promises. Because if I promise you something and then I get elected and can't fulfill that promise, then I've lied to you, and I'm not going to do that. But as far as the Economic Development Alliance, I am more than willing to work hand in hand with them to attempt to create a reserve of our funds so that we can put together an incentive package to entice some industry to come here. We are in desperate need of some good paying jobs in this area.
Mm-hmm.
And I will do whatever is within my means to work with the council to get those jobs here.
Do you see yourself as a big fish, little fish, or some type of a mixture of industry type person?
As far as what we want to bring here?
Yes.
I'd prefer a small school of little fish, a large school of little fish,
Okay.
versus that big trophy fish.
And you understand why I asked that question, because I think that that has been a debate around here forever. Everyone wants to go for the big fish, or, some want to develop the little fish. You've kind of indicated before that you like that mix. You don't want just, to go after any particular size in that situation.
Right, and as far as the EDA, I would like for them to broaden their vision a little bit on what they're looking for, and I don't know what all they are actively looking for, but I just feel that we've got more than our fair share of the auto supply industry, and I would like for them to, and again, I've never walked in their shoes, so I don't know the task at hand that they have every day. But I would like to see somebody go to the northern unionized states and try to attract some of those businesses to relocate. If they come here where we're not union, they can afford to still pay a good salary
Mm-hmm.
and still make a very nice profit with the potential to expand even further once they relocate.
Well, before we get into the elephant in the room, which is the finances, what about your infrastructure plans? Because you had actually started a lot of stuff in infrastructure when you were council. What do you see you trying to accomplish in that area?
Well, we did when I was on the council, and Mayor Barbara Young, she gets kudos for seeing and pushing the council to work on a sewer rehabilitation program. Our council members at that time made the tough decision to set aside $800,000 annually strictly for sewer rehabilitation. And I think we need to continue that because we still have issues with sewer overflows. I know I have a manhole very near my house that frequently overflows, and ADEM is frequently fining the city for those violations.
After a while, they come pick up people.
They do. But, if we take all that money that we're just giving away to ADEM and put it toward rehabilitating our existing structure, eventually we're not going to have to throw that money away anymore. The road paving, it's always been a heated topic for discussion within our city. Nobody's a fan of tar and gravel, and I understand that. I don't like it either. When going back, and I keep going back to when I was on the council, we when I say we, the council, the mayor, and the community development coordinator, particularly Mr. Randy Thomas, he sought the A-TRIP funds and the grants from the state to pave roads. And we were lucky and fortunate enough to capture a lot of that money for the local area. A lot of roads didn't necessarily get paved on our watch, but the funds
Started coming in.
were there, or we were responsible for obtaining those funds. And unfortunately, some of us went out of office before they actually saw road paving. But the infrastructure is critical in any city. And another piece of our infrastructure that we have to maintain and capitalize on is our endless supply of clean water. We have way more water than we can ever use, 15,000 residents. We need to seek out a market in the Lee County area in particular to sell that excess water. If we sell it and keep it moving through the lines, it's less likely to sit in the tanks and grow algae
And
if
become
the
unusable.
chemicals, and then have a tainted water supply like we had not too awful long ago.
Okay. Well, now let's deal with the elephant in the room.
Okay.
What are some of the things that you would like to see done about the financial situation in our city?
Okay.
Briefly.
Without calling names.
Look, briefly.
I'll try not to step on any toes, or
Okay.
as many as I can. This is the way I see it. Your finances have to be in order. If there's doubt there, whatever, we need to research an audit firm, look at their history. Are they credible? Do they do a good job? Get that firm, let them do an audit, see it through to the end. Find out what money we have, what accounts we have, where the money's supposed to be, where it's supposed to go. And then start fresh. If we have to clean house to do it, let's clean house. Law enforcement is my background. I strongly believe in holding people accountable for their actions.
So, under the Mark Fuller regime, there's a new sheriff in town.
Well, if that's the way you want to put it, then that's how we'll
Well,
do it.
but I mean, what you're saying is we can't play around with the money.
That's true.
And we got to make some decisions and some actions for solving those problems.
Yes.
And as you said, you got to see it all the way through and not
Yes.
just, okay. Have you considered there's a lot of talk about forensic audit versus not doing an audit. That's forensic. Where do you kind of go on that?
Well, I think we need to stick with what we got going on now.
Okay.
See it to the end. And if there is a lot of discrepancies there, and we can't locate where this money is or where it's supposed to be, if that's the next step, then by George, let's do the next step.
Okay.
And then see it through to the end. But at the end of the day, we got to get it fixed. If we determine that somebody took something that they weren't entitled to it, terminate them, prosecute them in that order. But in the meantime, if there's doubt as to the trustworthiness of that person, remove them from handling money. I don't care if it's somebody that's handling this transaction to this place and then this place to that place. Wherever the doubt occurs, don't let them keep handling the money.
That's a novel idea, isn't it?
It's called common sense.
Okay. All right. Well, I like that. So you've already kind of touched on it. What type of a manager or governing body person would you see yourself being as mayor?
Okay. Well, if you're ridden around Alex City, you've seen my campaign signs. And if you've taken a second to read them, there are 4 words on there. It's accountability, honesty, integrity, and transparency. I will absolutely hold people that are under my watch accountable to do the job they're hired to do. If they demonstrate that they're not able or not willing to do their job, then they need to seek employment elsewhere.
Okay.
I'm a straightforward kind of guy. Integrity, there's a couple of different definitions of integrity. My definition is always doing the right thing, even if no one's watching.
Right.
You can't go wrong by doing what's right.
It's fair enough.
And transparency. Too many citizens in Alex City are they're upset, they're angry, they're frustrated because they can't get answers from City Hall. I will, if you want to know something, come ask. If it doesn't relate to a personnel matter with one of my employees, should I be elected mayor, or if there's some economic development situation going where there's a
Privacy situation.
right,
Yeah.
then everything else is open, in my opinion. If you want to know what so-and-so makes, I don't have a problem with it. Here it is. If you want to know why we tore up Church Street for the second time, I'll give you the best answer out there. The truth.
The truth. Well, obviously, I would normally ask what type of leadership and communication could we expect, but I think you kind of answered that with the transparency and your 4 points for what you're running on.
Let me go one step further
Sure.
if we have time.
Yeah.
You know General Patton,
Yep.
he had a saying, lead me, follow me, or get the hell out of the way.
Yeah, that's it.
That's me.
That's it. Well, let me ask this, because I asked this of another candidate, and I think that it's a good question, because I think people really kind of want to know. You know, normally they ask the president when they're running, what would be the first thing you try and do once you get in the office and do the oath and all that kind of stuff. Mark Fuller's just settling into the mayor's seat. He's looking around, and he's about to do his first thing. What would that be?
Well, I don't want to single out a department, but one thing that really bothers me is the utilities section. We're a small town, but I go into City Hall now and I see these roped off areas where you have to go through this line to pay your utility bill. I would probably pack all that up and put it away.
Okay.
We have capable people there that can take care of your utilities. Many citizens only have time to pay their utility bills at certain times of the day, and that's usually on their lunch hour or
Right.
before work, or if they're fortunate enough to get off before
Just
close
before
of
after,
business.
yeah.
They don't have time, and they shouldn't be required to stand in line to give the city their money. We
Okay.
should be standing there with open arms to
Ready.
receive that money.
Okay.
So that's the first thing. Other than that, I would meet with my department heads, let them know what I expect out of them, let them tell me where their problem issues are, and let's sit down together and come up with an efficient solution to get the job done.
Okay. I like that. And this is more of just helping people understand some of your past stuff that you've done to help the city. What are some of the things that you've done to help the city, even as a just regular citizen? Obviously council, so we don't have to go through that one. But
Yeah, I have
what are
served
some-
on the council as a police officer. I protected the citizens of LACD. I've arrested felons. I've arrested misdemeanor violations. I've always tried my best to treat people as well as they would allow me to treat them in my law enforcement career. Now, sometimes people just won't let you
Gotta
treat
do what
them
you gotta
well.
do. Yep.
But at the end of the day, my job is to come home safe. Other than that, I have participated in the recreational aspect of everyday life in Elliott City. I was a past member of the youth baseball board. We did some good things there. I helped coach baseball because that's my son's passion is baseball. And whether I was in the coaching arena or just being at the ball field and enjoying watching the games, I always tried to talk to the youth, coach them on the field, mentor them off the field, so that they always did the right thing.
Sounds good. Now, as you know, we've had a lot of negative press in Alexander City. What would the Mark Fuller administration do to try and curb some of the negative press and possibly turn it into positive press?
Well, first of all, I would charge all of my employees to do everything on a daily basis, legally, morally, and ethically.
Okay.
If you're doing everything right and you don't have anything to hide, it's kind of hard for people to cast a negative light on you.
Right.
I would like to sit down with the people that handle our local media relations and offer them a block of my time on a weekly basis to share with them and the citizens of Alex City anything that we have going on, any projects that we're working on, any issues that the city's facing, both positive and negative, because if you put everything out there and you're open and transparent with everything,
It is
it's
what it
kind of
is.
hard for people to come up with a negative rumor.
True.
So if you lay it all out there and say, this is what it is, then I think it will cut down tremendously on the negative side.
Well, you're in City Hall. I guess the next question is more of what do you see both as in the time that you were council going into where you see it now? Is City Hall diverse, and what would a Mark Fuller administration be like when it comes to diversity?
Well, I can go back further than when I was in the council. I'll go back to when I was a city employee in
As an officer.
1991.
Okay.
Historically, I can't speak for all cities, but Alexander City, if you were outside looking for employment inside, and you had a relative or a close friend that was already employed, you were almost a shoe-in for a job. Mark Fuller doesn't work that way.
Okay.
I'm looking for the best qualified person
Period.
to fill that vacant spot. Now, having said that, I also believe in being loyal to your employees. So if there's a position open that doesn't require a certain level of education or a certain specialized skill, then we need to work to fill that position from our existing city employees,
That's fair.
rather than the brother of the superintendent at this department.
I got you. All right. So, last question before you get to make your appeal to the public. How do you see this city as far as it being unified right now? Or do you see it as being unified?
I would like to say that I do, but I would be not truthful.
Okay.
I don't think we're are as unified as we need to be. And by that I mean we've got a lot of different nonprofit groups that are working. And I may not be going with this question where you want me to go. But,
Doesn't matter. It's your time.
we've got different nonprofit groups that are working to achieve their goals, the things that they see are as important. And they are important to bettering Alex City. But they're not communicating well and working well with one another. And I told this, I interviewed with the Main Street Board earlier, and I told them the same as I'm telling you. You got 5 or 6 different small groups, and they're occupying 5 or 6 different buildings, and they're paying lease and utilities on all these buildings, and they're not communicating well with one another. I would like to bring them all under one roof so that, first of all, they can share the cost, the expenses that each one incurs with lease and utilities. But second, it would almost force them to interact with one another, being under that one roof.
Okay.
Even if it's just coming and going to work, coming and going to lunch.
Seeing each other at some point.
At some point, you're going to say, hey, what you got going on today? Well, yeah, I got this project over here on Main Street, and I'm really frustrated. It's not moving forward like I need it to. Well, let me get my team over there, and we'll see what we can do to help you. And at the end of the day, it's all about working together for the betterment of Alexander City.
Okay. Well, before we get ready to go, that camera right there is going to be the person that you're talking to. Why don't you give them your last spiel as to why they need to consider voting for you, and then, of course, it would be wrong if you didn't ask them for their vote at that point in time.
It would. And I'm going to begin with that. I am Mark Fuller. I'm running for mayor, and I would sincerely your consideration for your support and vote on August 23rd. Why do I think I deserve that? Because first of all, I'm not a typical politician. I do not make campaign promises. I do not promise anything that I can't deliver on. I speak my mind. There's no doubt where we stand with one another. I don't mind stepping on toes if that's what it takes to better our community. I don't like waste. I don't like wasteful spending in our government, and I intend to tighten the belt and live within our means and create a reserve to entice, to have a pool of money and an incentive package available should we be fortunate enough to bring an industry here. I will work hard daily, even if it means taking off my dress shoes and putting on a pair of work boots and getting out there helping finish a job that needs to be finished. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate your consideration on August 23rd.
Well, you've heard, and I'm gonna give you a new title. Officer, former councilman Mark Fuller address you and ask you for your vote. Hopefully this information helps you to put him on your list of individuals that you're considering. Again, we do this so that individuals can get information about the candidates for mayor and council for the city of Alexander City. I ask that when you see this video, if you like what you hear, I'm sure Mark would appreciate that you not only like it, but share it and get it out there so that more people have an opportunity to take a look. Again, both of the forums on August the 8th and also August the 11th. And it would be wrong if I didn't say that you need to go out and vote on August the 23rd. Once again, I appreciate each one of you for the feedback. It helps me understand what I need to do as we move forward and get closer to the deal. We'll have 2 more polls that'll be put out on the Alexander City Promise page. I hope that you'll participate. I'll be looking for 40 people to help me understand where people are. Till the next time, Sean Bland with the Alexander City Promise. Thank you.